Hello and welcome. My name is Brian Chu. I'm a Microsoft technical trainer. I'm here to walk you through the AZ-800 Administering Windows Server Hybrid Core Infrastructure course. Let's get started. In this session, we'll focus on deploying and managing identity infrastructure with the Windows Server. You'll get an introduction to Active Directory domain services. Learn how to define and manage domain objects, and explore the logical and physical components that makes up ADDS. We'll also cover essential management tools, group policy objects, and advanced features like trust relationships. So, let's get started with this session. Our first module is all about Active Directory Domain Services, or ADDS for short. Let's break down what makes up ADDS. There are logical components like domains, forests, OUs, and containers. These help organize and structure your directory. There are also physical components, such as domain controllers and global catalog servers. Physical components play a vital role in ensuring security, reliability, and efficient data access within an Active Directory environment. Understanding these components is key to manage your environment effectively. Let's look at each logical component. A partition is a section of the ADDS database, storing different types of data. The schema defines the rules for what objects and attributes can exist. A domain is a container for use in computers, and it can be organized into parent-child relationships. A domain tree is a group of domains that share a common root and a DNS namespace. A forest is a collection of one or more domain trees that share a common schema and global catalog. Organizational units, OUs, are containers for users, groups, and computers, and help delegate administration. Last, containers are similar to OUs, but can't have group policy objects linked to them. A forest is the top-level container in ADDS. It's made up of one or more domain trees, which themselves contain one or more domains. Forests provide boundaries for trust relationships and access to resources. Within a forest, domains share a common root, schema, and global catalog. In our example, there are two domains, datum and contoso.com. And as we can see, contoso.com has a child domain, seattle.contoso.com. Domains are logical containers for managing users, computers, and groups. They act like boundaries for replication and administration. Domains provide authentication and authorization, ensuring that only the right people have access to the right resources. There are different types of trust relationships between domains, which we will cover in details later. User objects represent individual people in your organization. Each user account includes a username, password, and group memberships. Creating and managing user objects is a fundamental task for any administrator. Groups help you manage permissions for multiple users at once. There are different types of groups, such as security and distribution groups. And there are different scopes, like global and universal. Understanding groups make it easier to assign and manage access rights. Computer objects represent devices that are part of your network. Like users, computers have accounts, can authenticate with the domain, and can belong to groups. Managing computer objects includes tasks like configuring properties, moving them between OUs, and resetting or disabling accounts. Organization units, or OUs, are used to group objects within a domain. OUs allow you to assign group policy objects and delegate administrative permissions. Unlike containers, OUs can have GPOs linked to them, making them essential for organizing and managing large environments. Service accounts are special accounts used by applications and services. There are three main types. Standalone managed service accounts are used for single server applications. Group managed service accounts for applications running on multiple servers. And delegated managed service accounts. They are new in Windows Server 2025 for applications needing controlled access on specific servers. Each type has different management and security features, with DMSAs offering enhanced security by binding credentials to specific devices. You'll use several tools to manage ADDS, including Windows Admin Center, a web-based console for managing servers, remote server administration tools for remote management, the Active Directory module for Windows PowerShell for scripting and automation, MMC snap-ins like Active Directory users and computers, sites and services, domains and trusts, and schema. Next, we'll look at managing domain controllers and flexible single master operations FSMO roles. These are critical for the health and stability for your ADDS environment. So, what is a DC? Domain controllers are servers that host the ADDS database and provide authentication services. For redundancy and security, it's best to have at least 2 domain controllers per domain. You can install domain controllers using Server Manager via Graphical User Interface, GUI. The snapshot in this slide shows us the configuration wizard. But you can use PowerShell or automation tools for deployment as well. We'll discuss best practices and demonstrate the process in the lab at the end of this session. When upgrading domain controllers, you can either introduce a new server and promote it to a domain controller, or perform an in-place upgrade. Each method has its pros and cons, but Microsoft recommends introducing new servers for a clean installation. Functional levels determine what features are available in your ADDS environment and which Windows Server versions can run on domain controllers. Raising the functional level enables new features, but you should plan carefully before making changes. Deploying ADDS in Azure requires careful planning. You'll need to consider network topology, site configuration, IP addressing, DNS, and disk placement. Deploying ADDS in Azure is different from integrating with Microsoft Entra ID, and each approach serves different needs. Maintaining domain controllers involves planning for backup and restore, and using features like the Active Directory Recycle Bin to recover deleted objects. There are two types of restores: non-authoritative, which updates with current data, and authoritative, which restores specific objects. The global catalog is a partial read-only copy of all objects in the forest. It helps speed up searches across domains. In single-domain environment, all domains controllers can be global catalog servers. But in multi-domain or multi-site environments, you need to plan placement carefully. Some operations in ADDS must be handled by a single master, known as FSMO roles. There are 5 FSMO roles, 2 at the forest level, domain naming master and schema master, and 3 at the domain level, RID master, infrastructure master, and PDC emulator. Understanding these roles is crucial for troubleshooting and maintenance. Besides, you also need to know how to identify and transfer FSMO roles between domain controllers using both graphical and command line tools. This is an important skill for maintaining a healthy ADDS environment. The schema defines the rules and the structure of the ADDS database. It determines what types of objects and attributes can exist. The schema is hierarchical, with each level inheriting attributes from its parent. Only members of the schema admins group can modify the schema. Changes should be made carefully, as the schema controls how information is stored. The schema does not support deletions, so plan changes with caution. Now, let's move on to Group Policy Objects, or GPOs. GPOs are essential for centralized management of settings across users and computers in your organization. Group policy is a powerful tool for enforcing settings across your organization. You can use GPOs to apply security settings, manage applications, deploy software, redirect folders, and configure network settings. GPOs are managed using the the Group Policy Management Console and Editor. GPOs can be scoped to sites, domains, and OUs. The order in which GPOs are applied determines which settings take precedence. Understanding this order is important for troubleshooting and effective management. GPOs are applied automatically at startup, logon, and at regular intervals, or manually using the group policy update /force command. Knowing when and how GPOs are applied helps ensure your settings are enforced as intended. You can block inheritance or enforce GPO links to control which policies apply. The Group Policy Inheritance tab helps you evaluate which GPO takes precedence. Link order and loopback processing are important concepts for advanced scenarios. Domain-based GPUs are stored on domain controllers and manage configuration centrally. There are two default GPUs, default domain policy and default domain controllers policy. It's best practice to create new GPUs for custom settings rather than modifying the defaults. GPUs manage two major categories of settings: computer configuration and user configuration. You can use GPUs to apply security, manage desktops and applications, deploy software, redirect folders, and configure network settings. We'll demonstrate how to create, configure, and apply GPUs using the Group Policy Management Console in our lab. GPUs consist of two components: the Group Policy Container in ADDS, which stores metadata, and the Group Policy Template in sysvol, which stores actual settings. Replication ensures consistency across domain controllers. Administrative templates provide most GPU settings and are stored in the ADMX and ADML files. The central store is a repository for these files, ensuring consistency for administrators editing GPUs from different workstations. Now, let's look at advanced features of ADDS, including trust relationships, monitoring, and custom partitions. Trust relationships enable users to access resources across multiple domains and forests. Parent, child, and root tree trusts are created automatically and are two-way and transitive, allowing seamless authentication and resource access. In this topology diagram, we can see parent-child trust in tree 1. And we can also see tree root trust between tree 1 and tree 2. There are several types of trust relationships: external trusts for access between domains in different forests, realm trusts for authentication with non-ADDS directory services, forest trusts for sharing resources between forests, and shortcut trusts for faster authentication between non-adjacent domains. To create trust relationships between forests, you need to know how to configure prerequisites such as DNS conditional forwarding. Monitoring and troubleshooting ADDS is essential for maintaining a healthy environment. Use tools like repadmin, dcderg, and PowerShell commandlets to monitor replication and operational status. ADDS has default partitions for configuration, schema, domain, and application. You can use ntds util command line tool to create and manage custom partitions, perform database maintenance, and clean up metadata. Now, it's time to get practical experience from Lab 1. In this lab, you'll deploy a new domain controller on server core and configure group policy. This scenario simulates real-world tasks for ADDS administrators. First, let's take a look at the current settings on contoso.com. We will first take a look at our current domain controllers. As we can see, there is an existing domain controller installed. So if we take a look at our current domain servers, there are 4 of them. We will do our administrative tasks mainly on SCA ADM1. And the other 3 SCA servers, they are all server cores. So we can verify that by switching to SCA SVR1. As we can see from here, there is no graphic user interface. Okay, so let's switch back to our SCA admin1 server. From here, we will first install the ADDS service on SCA SVR1 with a PowerShell command. So what we will do is we will launch Windows PowerShell with administrator privilege. And then I have already copied all of the commands that will be used in this lab onto my notepad. So I will open the notepad to take a look at the command that we will use. So we will use install Windows feature PowerShell command. We will copy this command and paste it into our Windows PowerShell and run it. So this will install ADDS on the remote SCA SVR1. We need to do this because, as we mentioned earlier, there is no graphic user interface on SCA SVR1. And the next up, we will use get Windows feature PowerShell command to verify the installation. And let's run this command. So as you can see, this lists all of the Windows features installed on the remote server. And Active Directory module for Windows is already installed. So we will switch gear to Windows Server Manager. And then we will pick up the installation progress from here. So the very first thing we will do is to add the remote server in Windows Server Manager. So we will click Add Servers. And here we will search the name of the remote server. We click Find Now. And we will select SCA SVR1. Then click OK. After the remote server is added to Server Manager, we can continue our setup. So this time, let's click ADDS. And as you can see, follow-up configuration is required. So we click More, and let's promote this server to a domain controller. So the very first thing, as we can see from the wizard, is to select a domain name. And we also need to provide the credential to do the domain promotion operation. So here we click Change, and then we will use the Enterprise Administrator credential to do this one. So we will paste the password for Contoso Administrator here, and click Next. So this domain controller will be integrated with Domain Name System Server, DNS, and also Global Catalog will be installed as well. We will need to provide Directory Service Restore Mode password. So we will confirm the password and click Next. And as we can see from here, you can choose to install from media options. And you can also select which domain controller the replication will be from. And you can choose where the data is stored. You can review all of the configurations you have done. But here, we will click View Script. So we will install the ADDS with PowerShell command. So here we will copy all of the commands here, right? First, we will remove the unnecessary section. And then we do some modification of the format of the command. So I have done the modification previously so that we can simply copy the command. We will use invoke command to run the modified ADDS installation command on the remote SCA SVR1 server. So this is the final command that we will use. We will paste it here and run the DC promotion process remotely. So it will prompt us to provide the credential for this operation. So we will still use Contoso Administrator for this operation. And we will copy the password here. And this time, it will prompt us for the safe mode administrator password. And then we will confirm the password. Okay. As we can see, the installation is kicked off. Next up, let's manage objects in ADDS. We will use Windows PowerShell commands to do that. As you folks can see, I have already copied all of the commands into this notepad. I have pre-run some of them so that this can save us some time. So let's review the commands one by one. For the very first command, we will create a new organization unit called Seattle with protected from accidental deletion enabled. The next command is to create a new user and add the new user into the Seattle OU. The third command is to set the domain password for the user. And for the fourth one, it will enable the user account. For the next one, we will create a new security group. And after that, we will add the domain user into this security group. So now we will run get AD group member command to verify the settings were actually completed successfully. And paste it into Windows PowerShell and run it. So as you can see, the user was already added into this security group. So for the very last command, we will add this domain user into the local administrator group. So this can ensure us that the domain user can log on to this domain server later on. Now let's do some group policy configuration. First, let's open Group Policy Management. And then we will click Group Policy Objects. So as you folks can see, these are the two default group policy objects in the domain. So here we will create a new group policy object. We will call this one TOSO Standards and click OK. Then we will edit this group policy. We click Edit button. And here, we will first take a look at user configurations. And we click Policies. So we choose Administrator Templates. And we go to System. And then we will choose Prevent access to registry acting tools. And we will enable this policy. So we can click Enable and click Apply. So this will prevent monitoring registry from the domain user. Next up, we will take a look at how to do the personalization setup. So we will click Control Panel and Personalization. And here we will change the setting for Screensaver Timeout. We'll click Enable. And we can change the default timeout for this group policy setting. Okay, configuration is complete. The next step for us is to do another one. So this time we will enable password protection for the screensaver. All set. Let's close this window. So what we'll do next is we will first select this group policy object and choose link an existing GPO. And we will link it at the contoso.com domain level. Okay, so after the link is complete, we will review the effects of the group policy objects. So what we will do is we will first sign out, and then we will sign in again to test the group policy setting. We will choose Other User, and this time we will log on the server with the newly created user Ty. So we will first type in the domain name and the username, and we will input the password for the user. And we will use this user to log on to the server. And let's see whether the group policy object we set earlier can be effective for this domain user. So before we do that, let's run a PowerShell command. And the command is group policy update force. So this will force the retrieval of the newly created group policy settings. So as we can see, this command was executed successfully. Let's open the Start menu, and we will test the registry editor. And as you can see here, registry editing has been disabled by the group policy setting. Okay, after the verification is successful, let's switch back to our Contoso administrator. So we first log off the Thai domain user account. And then we log in with Contoso administrator again. And let's input the password for the administrator. This time, let's verify the order of preference regarding the group policy settings we did earlier. So let's open group policy management again. And this time, we will click the Seattle OU. So let's first create a GPU and link it here. All right, and we added this group policy object. So we still open the administrative templates under user configuration. And we click personalization. And this time, we also select Screensaver Timeout. But for this group policy setting, we will select Disabled. So this is a different setting from the setting we previously done. And then we click Group Policy Inheritance. So as we can see here, Seattle application override has higher precedence than the default domain policy and contoso standards policy. Next up, let's configure the scope of the group policy object we just created with security filtering. So first, let's select the group policy object, and let's do an edit on this object. Here, let's click Do not show this message again and OK. All right, so as you can see, by default, it is authenticated users within the security filtering. What we will do is we'll click the Remove button and click OK. So you will be prompted with a warning. So here we'll just click OK, because we will add a new security group for the security filtering. This time we will use Seattle branch users for the scope. By doing this, we can refine the scope of the group policy object. Besides users, groups, you can also add domain computers for the security filtering. So this time, let's click Add again. And we click Object Types. We need to check Computers and click OK. So this time, we will search domain server for this one. SCA ADM1 and check names. Then we click OK. All right. Next, let's verify the application settings. What we will use is we will use the group policy monitoring tool. And first, let's create a new one. So we will open Group Policy Monitoring Wizard. And click Next. And Next again. Here, you can refine your selection. So here, we will just browse. And we will select Seattle OU. But you can also refine the user as well. So here, you can input the username of the domain user. So we will type domain username here. For the computer information, it works exactly the same. You can choose a container, or you can type in the computer names directly. So here we will type in SCA admin1. Okay. So for the next settings, we will accept the default settings. And here, as you can see, the user security groups are listed here, right? It contains the ones that we chose earlier. Okay, so we will select Seattle branch users and click Next. We accept the default settings for the follow-up configuration. All right. So as you can see here, it will provide us a summary of the group policy settings. Remember, we did some configurations on the Contoso standards group policy objects. And we also set up a Seattle application override. Okay, so you can get a glimpse of the operations that you did earlier from the Summary tab. You can also take a look at the details of these group policy settings in the Details tab as well. So here, let's switch to the Details tab. All right, so you can check the winning group policy objects for the settings. So here, as we all know, the winning group policy object will be Seattle application override. So this is quite useful for the domain administrator's daily job, because the group policy setting can be implemented by other domain administrators. So use this tool to increase the efficiency when you do group policy management. You can take a look at the exact results from the Details tab. You can see the winning GPO. And here, for the demonstration purpose, we will select a self-generated certificate. This concludes our session. You've learned one of the most important aspects of IT environments, identity infrastructure. Remember, mastering identity infrastructure is a key skill for any IT professional working with Windows Server. There are many ways to continue your learning journey. We encourage you to watch other videos in this course, or search out your next favorite topic on Microsoft Learn at aka.ms/learn.